live on YouTube and we are live on Periscope. So, to everybody out there, hello, hola, Konnichiwa, Salaam, Ciao Namaste. Peace to all. This is the Pink Elf in the Room conversation. And hold on just a sec. There we go. Ooh. What we will be talking about for today is why is it important to change or evolve your world? Why is it important for you personally to work on evolving it? It doesn't take much, as I've been told, to change your world, only about 5% to create a domino effect on the planet. That's all it takes, 5%. No more, no less. So, why is it so important at this point in time to evolve your own world? It's first of all important because you are living in a society, for one, where you are destroying the environment that benefits who you are as a person. And that is the craziest thing about it is we haven't seemed to realize that we need our planet to survive. It's what gives us life to begin with. It's what also protects us from other things. We put some of the most nastiest things between our planet and the sun itself. We put the nastiest things between our water supply in this planet Earth. We put the nastiest things from different food sources on this planet Earth that are beneficial to our how our body functions, how we breathe, how our entire mind works, and everything else in between, and we brush it off as though it's unimportant. And yet, this is your environment, so that would be one of the biggest things. Two, two being your belief system is what causes these things in the first place. And not just on your environment, but even on a higher scale between each other. We live in a world where we are completely believing there is only division, there is only power in division. If you are not this type of person, then you cannot have this type of power or strength. And we believe that so dearly that we don't look into many of the effects it causes. We don't look into allowing everyone to have the same fairness as everyone else. And we judge people based off of how they look instead of the actions that are taken in fairness by observation that allow us to believe that person to be who they are not. We believe what benefits our companies or businesses has to be a certain type of person and not looking at the entirety. We believe we live in a scarcity society and that there is not enough, and yet the 0.0 has much more than the 99%. We also believe, however, that the 99% does not have a chance to succeed in getting that. When we do, we believe in a, we believe we have the right laws and regulations, and yet there are many flaws to these laws. We allow our belief system to cause an effect on our planet to make it seem as though these things benefit us, and yet they have not really done anything to help us in the long run. We will say they have. We will beat our chest. We will yell at the sky if we need to make someone believe that what we're saying is true. However, there are so many flaws in this belief system, no matter where you're coming from, that it creates an error for everybody, not allowing anybody the fairness, not allowing anyone that unconditional love, not allowing someone to truly be themselves. They have to put on a mask and pretend because that person desires them to pretend, instead of being who they truly are, being authentic to who they are, being able to do what they need to grow who they are. We would prefer fantasy over what is in front of us or what is so. We prefer to see people with smiley faces of masks than to see someone's true emotions and growing each bit of those flaws to become something more in their evolution. We would prefer those things instead of doing what's necessary to grow ourselves fully. And that is something that has to change. We That's just number two of what has to change of who we are. There are many things, and including between ourselves. We desire personally to go beyond space, but the problem with that is we can't go beyond space until we solve the problems here. The reason why it won't be so easy is whether or not we can go to space, it will never be easy until we all learn how to first get along with each other, which has been a difficulty for us to do. We have not gotten to that extent because we've had the belief system that only one person can learn this type of technology or do these type of things or be that type of scientist or be that type of theorist and so on. It can't be a certain person, and that does not work. You cannot have a decision making believing that only one person can be a certain thing in this world. Everybody deserves the same chance to be that, and the fair chance to create whatever they like. Everyone has the right and the fairness to create technology that can grow us. We live in a world where people are afraid of tech because of what it's doing, afraid of someone advancing, creating advanced tech that can help us because it does not benefit businesses. And these are some of the three flaws on our own planet. So, now we've gone over that. Let's go over just simply number one of that. Why? Why is it important to change this world for your environment's sake? You may care about the simple fact of everything else you desire to do, and that is perfectly okay. This is simply an observation for you to understand. This whole broadcasting is for you to understand an observation that's vitally important. At least if you see it, you know it. That's all. Whether you feel one way or you feel another. Your environment is vitally important because of the fact that you thrive on this place. And you are yet at the same time poisoning yourself. And in order to completely eradicate that is to not allow yourself to condone to such things that aren't beneficial to you, like parks that have trees or forests that have trees and people are cutting them down. Whether it's making a petition, whether it's finding ways to end the destruction of that. The thing about your trees, we can say we'll plant more trees later for the trees we cut down, but the problem with that is it is your oxygen tank. The bigger the tank, the more oxygen flows. The more you cut it down, now you have to deal with smaller ones, so which means the smaller the tank, the smaller the oxygen. And it will take several years for those trees to grow to the same amount the same strength as other trees to give off that same amount of oxygen that is necessary for you to thrive. It is said that if you were to completely replant your entire Amazonian rainforest, for example, it would be enough for you to last. It would be enough to last for 3,000 years. It's important to look at your planet in the same way we look at our cars, taking good care of it. When you have a car, if it's empty on gas, you put more gas in it. Trees, yes, it's good that you plant them, but unlike gas, these things can be preserved and keep going. And you're the motor for this planet to keep going at its pace. If you so choose, unless you don't, that's up to you. But you live here and you take oxygen from that. The trees will be fine one way or another, whether you cut them down or not. The problem really is that you might not be okay if you keep cutting down the trees, because you thrive off that oxygen that those trees create. However, the trees can thrive off of everything, especially the carbon monoxide that comes out of your body. There's plenty of it. Even without your body being around, there's still plenty of that around for it to take in. That's just one part of it, though. Your water supply. It is said that 95% of the water is unclean. And yet, at the same time, there are many ways we have been poisoning people with the same water. For example, putting fluoride in the water. And in my own experience, I have noticed the difference because I did an experiment with and without fluoride. When I was on it, of course, I was very timid, afraid. I was very nervous about several things to the point of panicking. But when I was more drinking more alkaline water, more distilled water, my mind was much more sound, much more relaxed about things, knowing what I needed to do or what I choose to do to grow who I truly am as a person, instead of worrying about what is the next thing I should do, what should I do, what should I do, I don't know what to do, oh no. And of course, meditation helped with that. Going out into nature helped with that. Taking time to myself helped with growing that, making it easier on my mind to grow truly who I am as a person. Your food supply. Your food supply is vitally important, and it's understandable for some people who eat meat. They feel that's beneficial, and there's also for those who just love the taste of it, but as well as for those who are vegan, vegetarian, and pescatarian, and so on, and paleo, and so on and so forth. You're to observe very closely, you have to be willing to observe what you're eating. When we talk about your meat, there are some people who love it, but you have to also understand that you are what you eat. Some of those animals, for example, I stated this earlier to someone when we were talking about pigs. You are eating exactly what a pig eats. Pigs eat slop, pigs eat feces, pigs eat they'll eat other animals. They'll eat whatever they desire, and you are eating and consuming whatever bacteria is in that pig. On top of that, any damaging energy you are also consuming. So whatever energy you comes from that pig after death, on top of whatever is in that pig, is being consumed by you. For example, in North Carolina, there are a few farmlands where the pigs are all together, and they're around a lot of feces because they're caged in a small area. And this can also possibly lead to them eating probably other pigs, the feces, and so on and so forth, including with the slop, because it's all around them. And even if they don't eat it, the thing is, if they were even killed off due to the fact that them being around that in the first place, due to that happening, you're bound to get sick from that. When we talk about seafood, shrimp, lobster, crab, these are bottom feeders. they eat feces, which means you are also eating feces. And we can say the same thing for fish. When we talk about the areas they are, we talk about mercury, and I hear a lot about mercury poisoning, which fish should you eat, and so on and so forth. The thing is, you have to observe that you're consuming that, and that does poison your body. And that is why, even if you're not vegan, the importance of taking in less meat is vitally important. But on the other end of that, for those who are vegan, especially for me, this was something that's vitally important. You have to be more observant of what you're eating, because the fact remains there's a big difference between organic and non GMO. We can talk about how we want organic this, organic that, and everything else, but you have to remember at the end of the day, it began with non GMO. So, what's the importance of organic? Have you ever looked at a product and it only said organic and no non GMO? Have you ever looked at a product and saw non GMO and not organic? Observe that very closely, because that plays a key role in what you're eating. And on top of that, what I would say to people is feel your food. If you feel it's not good for you, then don't eat it. Or if you do eat it and you don't feel good, then don't eat it again. Next up is the belief system. Your belief system plays roles on several planes. That has allowed you to create a belief system of believing you are not the same thing. And before we even get into that, let's get to the key point: not the same thing. You are the same thing. You are a soul first and a body later, but you have created through the soul a three-part being of body, mind, and soul. The soul is choosing, as we've always discussed. You've seen people like my friend from Holistic Roots, Kimmit, who has been on the show and has stated this, and I state this all the time: you are on a humanistic tour of a lifetime, a lifetime ticket to explore and experience who you truly are in this world. You are choosing to be your greatness, your love, your kindness, your divinity, your God, your goddess, your creator within who you are is who you are being. And even if you did not believe in that in the first place, even in the beginning of this earth being created, you were you were the same species, no matter give or take your color. However, we don't seem to see that, and we believe deeply that that would be a flawed statement. However, you would make more working together than working against each other. We have a saying, and yet the funny thing is we deny that saying so much. United we stand, divided we fall. You are the collective. By being the whole, you can understand the true method of being one, being your oneness by working with each other no matter what is going on, no matter the situation, no matter what is happening. There was, for example, a story that was told to me about a group of people who built a house within 24 hours. And for some people who might think, was it one of those houses that could be built in 24 hours? No. This was a group of people who worked and built a house within 24 hours. By the next day, it was a complete house. That was just a house. Imagine what you could do if you worked together to create buildings, to create your own type of cars, your own streets, your own pavement, and so on and so forth. Just creating uniqueness within each other by creating tech and all sorts of things is what can help you grow as one. Working together, being fair, being unconditionally loving, being kind, being generous, being tolerant of certain things, whether you disagree with them or not, but caring for everyone around you to grow that part of who you are. We see people based on how they look, or due to what we've had happen to us in the past. And for us, that is very understandable. But at the same time, you have to be very observant of these things. It is important to be cautious of those things going on around you. But if there's something going on around you and you still are not sure and you shut it down anyways, whether it be, for example, a new employee, a person who's a love interest in your life, whether it be someone to be your friend, whether it be someone to be around in your family, whether it be someone to work with in your own business, in creating technology and inventing something new, observing how that person works is important, but of course, always be cautious because of the fact of knowing what works and what doesn't work. We use our laws and regulations and believe that we're doing the right thing, give or take the person's skin color, and we shoot first and ask questions later. We have many other ways we can actually change that, but are unwilling to change it and go with something that we feel in our mind that if it isn't broke, don't fix it, in a sense. But this is flawed. And we have not gotten to the point of changing it, but it is vital to change it for the simple fact that it works against people who are willing to grow what they need in life, but cannot, or it works against people who desire certain things in their life, but are unable to due to certain circumstances or because of the ideology of, for example, gender roles or the ideology of color roles and so on and so forth, believing that these things make you much better than the next person when they are flawed. Until we are willing to change this and take all information, observe all information, and observe a person just as they are, being fair on both sides, you cannot change anything. No matter what rules, what regulations you set, no matter how many times you can't seem to figure it out, you can't change it until this belief system is changed. And last, your tech. Why is it so important? You can never evolve tech until you evolve yourself. I mean, you can evolve tech, but it will never lead to the highest version of who you are. And the reason that could be said, some people say, well, look at what we're doing great things. Absolutely. But look at what you've created on the other end. Look at what you're causing. And this is simply observation. It's to observe these things. We are doing more harm to each other. We are beating our chest and believing ourselves much bigger than is needed. We believe we need these weapons to prove how strong and mighty we are to other nations, other countries, to show them that we're the biggest and you're going to listen to what I say. And if you don't, I'm going to come at you and I'm going to get you. And that's what we believe. We believe that that's it. That's the thing. That's a thing. That does not help. Until you unite each other as one, and of course you're going to have some countries that do not want to work with each other, but until you fully unite as one, fully against this belief system, fully against your environment, fully on how people are treated as one, from the biggest of nations to the smallest, and seeing not even each other any longer as nations, but as simply a one world. Not a one world government. Some people are like, oh no, I don't want Big Brother watching me. No, not that. A one world that works with each other, loves each other, grows each other in kindness. You will be able to evolve it when you get to that point. From the smallest person to create tech to the biggest person who can create technology, growing as one. The importance of changing is simple. If not you, who? If not now, when? This isn't something that can simply wait. This is something you are. To grow who you are in this very breaking moment to become something much greater. To become how beautiful you are, how amazing you are, how divine you truly are in being the gods, the goddesses, and the creators within. So, to everybody out there, have a good morning, have a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. Namaste.